The all photos entry into the really, really longathon almost died before it ever even started. The first hurdle was convincing the staff that I could actually do it, since I didn't have any runs on the default SRC leaderboard. Yes, it's there. Yes, it's hidden by default. No, it's not hidden because I cheated or because it's invalid. Okay, it's a little invalid, but only because it's an emulator run. I can do this, you gotta trust me. And either I gave a really good speech or they were desperate because they did trust me, but they also let me know that they had some filler runs on standby if mine failed. But this run started having issues before the game even started. Now, I'd set all of this up well beforehand because it's a total headache, but when we did go live, Demo's voice audio was breaking up pretty bad, and it was something happening between Discord and the audio output.
Quick mic check.
I didn't want to mess with a convoluted audio output circuitry, but the alternative was Demo sounding like a drive-thru McDonald's speaker.
Alright, I think it may be because I'm pulling from Discord. Give me a second, I'm going to see if I can do it direct.
If the multi-output device doesn't like Discord, we'll just cut out the middleman. Mute this, move this over here, sound like I know what I'm talking about. Wait, that actually worked? I'm not entirely sure how, but I wanted to get the thing started before I broke anything else.
3, 2, 1, go.
It was a huge relief because I felt like I had almost killed this thing before it even started. And we made it about 5 seconds before we ran into our next big problem.
Ooh, Thon, they said you've now muted your on-stream voice.
And I could have just paused the game to take care of it, but it was my first marathon stream, and it wasn't going like I planned, and my nerves were just overpowering logic. So I had one hand operating the controller, stumbling through these in-game menus, and the other one was navigating these MacBook settings, trying to reattach my microphone to the stream. And I got it just in time, and then I tried to play it super cool.
Alright, how's our sound coming through? I'm a bit worried about that now.
I'm waiting for the chat delay. Okay, we have you. They're saying yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I moved a lot of the settings around, so, my bad.
And I am so glad that Demo was there to speak coherently and introduce the game for me because my nerves were so bad that my brain was empty.
So, everybody, welcome. This is Harvest Moon 64 All Photos. This is our longest category, though we could make up some kind of 100% nonsense.
Demo's introduction didn't really register for me because I was too focused on everything I was doing wrong. Why am I doing a full forage on Wednesday, spring the 3rd? This is not part of the plan. I wasn't supposed to do any of this until Thursday the 4th. And now the NPC locations are scrambled, my gift count is wrong, my rhythm's off, and on the inside I'm freaking out because I can see all these things I'm doing wrong and the whole world is watching, and I can't just give up and start over. So I kept going. And you know what happened? Nothing. Nobody even noticed that I gave Ellie a flower during her introduction, and nobody cared. The only person freaking out here was me. And probably also Demo. While I was over here having my little panic attack, he was taking on the entire chat by himself.
So as we go through, I will try to talk about it. And if you guys want to ask any questions in chat, just at Demo Plays Games, and I'll try to answer.
And his voice was just so calm and reassuring, and it has a way of just dissolving panic. And by the time we were doing our best girl routine, the nerves had calmed down and I was back in the groove of things.
Do you get a marriage photo? Yes, you do. So are we not marrying best girl Karen? We are.
Absolutely, we are marrying Karen.
Anne is best girl. Yeah, this chat's going to be fun.
Here we go. Here we go.
One thing that Demo and I didn't discuss was a strategy for how to keep the conversation going. Mostly because we didn't realize it might even be a problem. And in those first couple of minutes, it really showed.
Oh my goodness, I had a fish on the first millisecond. If I'd pulled a cipher, I would have had a fish.
My stream is pretty delayed, so I cannot...
Fair enough.
Congratulations on your fish, but I haven't seen it yet.
That's okay, you will. You will see it soon.
But we fell into this flow where he would ask me something, and then I would end the answer by leading him into the next topic, or cluing him in on what I was planning to do next.
Oh, you're still looking for the large.
Yeah, I haven't fished a large yet. I have fished precisely one medium, but fishing is terribly difficult in this game.
Fishing is one of those things where it looks a lot easier than it actually is. The fish biting can last a few frames, or quarter of a second, half a second.
But we were at our best when we were sharing war stories, bouncing back and forth with memories of old runs, or poking fun at mistakes that all of us made at some point.
Good job checking the weather, and also watering the television.
Hey, N64 controller, it's not easy.
No, trust me, I know. I've milked that TV so many times. It's actually a lot worse with the milker because that animation takes so long and the sound is so obnoxious. I'm very, very excited for you to mess around with the cows later.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We were just being ourselves, keeping each other company through the same old day-to-day grind that the All Photos run truly is. And we had the overnight slot, so we expected to be something that people fell asleep to. But a couple hours in, people were getting more interested, asking about the details of certain photos or why we were doing things a certain way.
I'm loving everyone's reaction. I just read that list and it is crazy, yep. It certainly is. Yeah, everyone is in agreement that the 80% of your field as grass is just like a totally random thing.
Someone went off to do research and came back with even more questions. And we got to talk about the history of all photos and how we found these requirements through data mining or trial and error. And some even checked the speedrun.com leaderboard and noticed that Tomo was up there, but not Odd Tom. Should they be concerned that the person currently running the game doesn't actually have a completed run on the SRC leaderboard?
Tom does have a time for this category. He's done a few runs on emulator, and he has recently switched over to the actual console.
And I think it was the first time Demo really got a taste of what the emulator runners were actually going through. And I'm glad he was there because one of the challenges I wasn't prepared for, something I had no experience with, was how to keep up with hundreds of viewers in a chat. In the last hour, this chat had gone from a trickle to constantly scrolling, and keeping up with it was a full-time job.
I need to be watching the chat on one, and I need to be watching your stream on the other, because I'm a little behind the times to explain the
Yeah, I'm trying to watch chat, and it's actually a lot harder than I'd given it credit for.
I jumped in to help every once in a while, but about 2 hours in, I was plenty busy with my own full-time job of keeping this run alive. There's a lot of ways to kill an All Photos run, but they fall into two basic categories. Sometimes it's a single event that blocks the route to the photo. Rain on the photo day, sleeping through a festival, forgetting to enter into a race, and you usually know it immediately after you do it. And sometimes it's a bunch of little mistakes that don't mean a lot on their own, but together they add up to something that's deadly. And you don't think too much about it until you've fallen so far behind that when you stop and actually do the math, you realize there aren't enough in-game days to catch up before the deadline.
Let's say she was at 159, the best possible. Then an egg and a music box would be 170. Then we could do her dream event, and she'd still be like under 180. Like we couldn't even do her ankle event.
And these are a lot harder to catch because it happens so gradually that usually you think you're doing great until you expect an event to happen and it doesn't. By that point, it's too late. Going into summer year one, while Demo and I were bantering at each other and talking to chat, neither of us noticed how far Cliff was falling behind. And if Cliff didn't have at least 50 affection points by winter, he was going to leave. In this game, NPCs have an affection value that will increase by talking or giving a gift, but you can only do it once per day. Cliff gets 10 points if you talk and give him an egg, but for one reason or another, it just wasn't happening. One day, I'd decide I wanted to give the egg to Ellie, and I'd give Cliff a different gift instead. On another day, he just wouldn't show up at all. There was one time that I meant to give him an egg, but my finger slipped and I ended up giving him an edible herb instead. And each of these things isn't so bad on their own, but together they were starting to add up to something problematic. There's no direct way to see an NPC's affection points, but you can estimate based on cutscenes that trigger the first time it reaches a certain value. And the first big clue that something was wrong was when I got a cutscene for Cliff in the second week of summer that I usually got mid-spring.
Oh, alright, so there's a Cliff's event.
I didn't know the exact value of this cutscene, so I just tossed out a number and hoped someone would correct me.
Now that's what, 40 when he's
For All Photos, it wasn't rude to correct the streamer because none of us had memorized everything. Phone a friend was one of our lifelines.
I'm not sure. Did we decide on 35 or 40? I'm sure Desert's gonna chime in. I'm pretty sure it's 35.
So I'm sitting up in my seat now in gamer mode because I'm about done with gift runs, and I had just learned that Cliff was between 30 and 40 affection, and I thought he had to be at 100 before winter.
he has to be at 100 by the first of winter or he will pack up and leave the game.
And you can tell the gears in my brain were chugging full throttle to solve this problem, because the next day I checked 2 different TV channels before I left the house.
Yeah, you got to check that sports channel. It's really important.
I still had fresh memories of the run that failed when Jeff didn't show up at the party. And if this run was going to fail, it was not going to be for shorting a party member. It might, however, be for missing Maria's photo. When Maria reaches 200 affection, she stops by the farm at 5 p.m. for her photo. And I'd been manually tracking her affection from the start, every gift and talk for the last 2 hours.
it'll be close. I think she's in the high 150s.
But when it came time for her to show up, she didn't.
Maria's not here.
Maybe she wasn't high enough?
Yeah.
And usually when this happens, it just means you miscounted by a day. No problem. The next day, I gave Maria another music box and waited to 5 p.m. But still no Maria. And neither of us said it out loud, but we both knew the most common reason a girl doesn't show up is because you accidentally cleared the event.
Check this out. Maria is at a pink heart today. And that should mean she's at a 5'10", 15, 20, 204, which is well above the requirement for a photo. And this is the middle of summer, so if she doesn't show up tonight, that means we did something terribly wrong somewhere.
We missed it, yeah.
Yeah, which means we'll have to reload that old file. So if she does not show up tonight, this suddenly stops being a world record pace run. And we'll have to reload that old split we made at the very beginning.
However, we do have a safety split, or a safety file, so... I mean, we lose a bunch of time, but I have full confidence she'll show up.
There we go. Not to cause panic among everybody here.
Oh god, I thought you were going to continue to hit rocks for a second there.
No, not today.
And it was such a relief to be done with that one because it was the last big deadline before the next season.
God, see, isn't this category so easy?
You only have to remember every single thing, and then try to diagnose what is wrong when something doesn't go as expected.
I picked up one more photo at the Sea Festival, and the pace was looking good.
So Anna's green. Very nice. For the end of summer.
Yeah, this is shaping up.
Pace can be a little misleading for all photos because our splits are based on season, but what really matters is the NPC's affection. If you sleep through more days than usual, it'll look like you're ahead when you actually have a lot more gifting days ahead of you. Cliff was still a little behind going into fall, but everyone else is where they needed to be. And I didn't want to say it yet because I didn't want to jinx it, but I was also starting to believe. The difference between me and chat is that I knew what was coming up next season, that autumn is a minefield of run killers, and whether or not we stayed on this world record pace would be up to random numbers completely out of my control. But for now, I let myself believe.